Even Robert Conrad found the idea of him unbearable. On March 1, 1935, Robert Conrad was born in Chicago, Illinois. Conrad Robert Falk is his complete name. He was raised by a single mother, Alice Jacqueline Hartman, in a working-class neighborhood. It was a difficult time to live. When he was younger, he had a strong work ethic and a strong need for solitude, qualities that would later define his personal life and his on-screen persona. Initially, Conrad investigated several positions, including his background loading trucks, running milk routes, and working in construction left him with a grounded, no-nonsense sense of humor that permeated his playing. He received his big break in show business after relocating to California and beginning acting classes while working as a stuntman and in modest roles. He quickly created a name for himself in Hollywood thanks to his athleticism, ferocious determination, and raw masculinity. He was immediately cast by Warner Brothers as investigator Tom Lopaka in the renowned 1959-1963 television series Hawaiian Eye. His role as a cool, courageous private detective attracted notice and made him well known throughout the nation. However, he became famous for his role as Secret Service agent James T. West in the action-packed, original television series The Wild Wild West, 1965-1969. The combination of science fiction, spy thriller, and western made the show unique. Conrad performed the majority of his exploits, which won him admirers and cemented his reputation as a tough guy in real life. His intense on-screen physicality was unmatched at the time, and it established a benchmark for action heroes who followed in his footsteps. His friendship with co-star Ross Martin, Artemis Gordon, contributed to the show's warmth and humor, making it a fan favorite and eventually a cult favorite. Conrad had a successful career in television and film both before and after The Wild Wild West. He played Pappy Boyington on the popular NBC series Ba Ba Black Sheep, which was eventually renamed Black Sheep Squadron, from 1976 to 1978. A genuine individual who flew ace during World War II. Based on actual circumstances, this section allowed Conrad to demonstrate his acting prowess and his admiration for military valor. He acted in a number of successful films, including Assignment Vienna, The Duke, and other made-for-TV productions. He used his own business, Conrad Productions, to make a large number of these. His versatility allowed him to portray a wide range of characters with a realistic feel, including spies, police officers, soldiers, and cowboys. In real life, Robert Conrad was renowned for being as tough as he appeared on TV. Even as he grew older, he insisted on appearing physically real and was known to detest action duplicates. Many other performers were influenced by his dedication to realism in his parts and appreciated his direct storytelling style. He also hosted the PM Show with Robert Conrad, a well-known radio talk show, later in life. He engaged with fans on the show and discussed his lengthy career in a way that won people over. He was always humorous and honest. Being a father and spouse was the most significant aspect of Robert Conrad's life, and he placed a high value on family. To his off-screen persona. His initial wife was Joan Kenley. In 1952, when he was just beginning his career as an actor, they were married. Given how frequently relationships in the entertainment industry end horribly, their 25-year marriage is very remarkable. Together, they reared 5 children, which kept the home lively and active. Despite the fact that they divorced in 1977, they did so amicably. They maintained a cordial and courteous relationship for the benefit of their kids, and there were no public scandals or allegations of animosity. The two continued to support one another even after their romantic breakup, according to friends and relatives. Their kids felt safe and had continuity because of this. Conrad met the young woman who would become his second wife, Lavelda Ione Fan, in 1977, the same significant year. A new chapter in his personal life began at this time. It was not like any previous encounter. Conrad was a well-known television personality at the age of 43. She hosted the Miss National Teenager pageant, which recognized American teenagers and young adults for their scholastic achievement, poise, and talent. That year's winner was Lavelda, a youngster from Howard, Georgia. She succeeded and maintained her composure. Despite the fact that a professional initially arranged their meeting, it soon became romantic. Despite their stark age differences. Conrad was 25 years her senior. They had similar ideals, aspirations, and family-focused concepts. They married and had a second family together as their friendship became deeper. Conrad's image as an excellent father was further enhanced by the 3 children that resulted from the marriage. He was enthusiastic and committed to his new role in this blended family, and he frequently expressed his pride in his children from both marriages. However, Robert and Lavelda divorced in 2010 after almost 30 years of marriage. Like his first breakup, this one was handled maturely and with mutual respect. Conrad maintained close relationships with his children from both marriages, and they continued to speak cordially to one another. Interestingly, despite the fact that it can be challenging to combine 2 families, particularly when there are children from different generations, Conrad's 2 sets of kids were known to get along great. This uncommon peace was frequently attributed to Conrad's dependable parenting methods and emphasis on love, loyalty, and punishment. His family was quite united and held strong convictions. He put a lot of effort into ensuring that every one of his kids experienced the same level of love and support. It was believed that he was good and influential because his offspring from both marriages remained close to one another. Robert Conrad's work reflected his deep affection for his family. He frequently collaborated on TV shows with his children, fusing his role as a father in real life with his on-screen persona. In 1988, Robert produced and starred in the television series High Mountain Rangers, in which his son Shane Conrad also appeared. He and Shane collaborated on the 1989 spin-off Jesse Hawks. His daughter, Nancy Conrad, and another son, Christian Conrad, also witnessed the scenario with their father. Nancy embodied her father's ideal by portraying strong, capable women in several of the plays she appeared in. These alliances involved more than just commercial choices. They demonstrated Conrad's deep affection for his family and his belief that morals should be transmitted via group artistic endeavors. Another daughter, Joan Conrad, followed a different route behind the scenes from his children who were in front of the camera. She contributed to the entertainment sector from a production perspective and was a successful TV director. Her work demonstrated the focus, hard work, and artistic ability that Robert instilled in his children. He frequently spoke quite strongly of Joan's achievements, claiming that they demonstrated the success of the values that he and her mother had instilled in her from an early age. Ultimately, Robert Conrad's upbringing played a significant role in his identity. He was much more than a TV personality or action star. He was devoted to his family, loved his kids dearly, and was careful with his ex-wife. His children and grandchildren will carry his name and energy into the next generation, in addition to his iconic film performances. The person who caused Robert Conrad the most anguish, rage, and animosity over his lengthy and frequently contentious Hollywood career was his co-star Ross Martin. On the well-known television program The Wild Wild West from the 1960s, the 2 men co-starred as daring Secret Service agents James West, Conrad, and Artemis Gordon, Martin. But the fact that they weren't buddies off-screen was frequently concealed by their on-screen chemistry. Robert Conrad reportedly detested Ross Martin and repeatedly referred to him as arrogant, overly intelligent, and even obnoxious, despite the popularity of the program and the positive interactions between the characters. Conrad portrayed a gruff, overly masculine image and was a proud, large-bodied performer who enjoyed doing his own activities. He frequently denigrated Martin, almost to the point of scorn. Martin had a master's degree in stage acting, adored Shakespeare, and was fluent in several languages. He approached acting with academic correctness and a serious mindset. That intellectualism contrasted sharply with Conrad's more organic, practical approach. According to reports, Conrad believed Martin was constantly attempting to steal the stage from him because of his dramatic flair and frequent character changes. Reviewers applauded Martin's shifting masks, accents, and odd actions as the master of disguise, Artemis Gordon. Conrad, however, found them to be a grating attempt to deflect attention from the protagonist of the show. Their individual styles differed as much as the methods in which they performed their roles. Conrad had been an athlete and street fighter, and he had a short fuse. He was renowned for his integrity, audacity, and need for leadership. Conrad reportedly interpreted Martin's apparent understatement, sophistication, and refinement as arrogance. According to crew personnel, Conrad would taunt Martin on set and frequently ignored his suggestions. Additionally, the two frequently disagreed during meetings for production. Their fights became so heated, according to one former show writer, that scripts had to be altered to give Conrad more significant roles because he felt Martin's character was receiving too much attention. When The Wild Wild West concluded in 1969, the tension persisted. When the group reunited for TV films in the late 1970s and early 1980s, Conrad reportedly refused to participate and only consented after discussions ensured he would have total control over the material. According to one source, Conrad hardly concealed his distaste for having to stand next to Martin at press appearances, clenching his teeth whenever Martin's name was mentioned. Although Martin was always kind and professional and never publicly disparaged Conrad, those who knew him well say he was aware of the hate. The relationship continued to be chilly, hostile, and never improved, even after Martin's untimely death in 1981. Some speculate that Conrad's intense distaste for Ross Martin might have resulted from jealousy or even more serious anxieties. Although Martin's intelligence and ability to steal scenes with a raised eyebrow or a clever phrase may have made Conrad feel threatened or even competitive, Conrad was proud of his physical prowess. Martin might have represented everything Robert Conrad didn't trust in Hollywood, including the intelligent people and the celebrities who prioritized attention over their work. Robert Conrad had numerous altercations and disagreements with co-stars, directors, and producers during his lifetime. But his rage toward Ross Martin was the most intense and persisted the longest. Behind the scenes of one of the most watched action shows on television, two celebrities were engaged in a covert Cold War. One man brought polish and peace, the other fire and fists. Conrad appeared to be having a good time on video, but his true sentiments for Ross Martin were still sinister, deeply ingrained, and obvious to everyone who knew him. Robert Conrad's life was drastically altered on the evening of March 31, 2003. It would affect his final years in a permanent way. In the isolated and winding Sierra Nevada slopes close to his house in Alpine County, California, Conrad lost control of his Jaguar while traveling on a section of Highway 4. He crossed the median in the middle. His vehicle suddenly collided with a Subaru being driven by 26-year-old Kevin Burnett. The crash had disastrous consequences. Both males had severe injuries. Burnett's injuries were considered severe and potentially fatal at the time, and Conrad, then 68, had been injured multiple times. They discovered during their investigations that Conrad was intoxicated at the time of the collision. He was charged with felony drunk driving after it was discovered that his blood alcohol content was higher than permitted. Due to Conrad's reputation as a tough guy in television series like The Wild Wild West and Ba Ba Black Sheep, the case received a lot of media coverage. He made no attempt to contest the charges in court, though. Instead, he pleaded no contest, a legal maneuver that allowed the judge to deem him guilty without his formal admission of guilt. After the court accepted the plea, he was convicted of felony DUI, driving while intoxicated. This was a wake-up call in his personal life and a serious setback to his public image. There were some significant repercussions from the conviction. Conrad was sentenced to 6 months of house confinement, which included electronic monitoring and the inability to leave the house except under specific circumstances. As part of the court's broader effort to address the issues that caused him to drive while intoxicated, he was also ordered to attend alcohol counseling. His 5-year probation was the most significant aspect of his sentencing. This implied that the police would be keeping a close eye on him and that if he breached the law again, he may be subject to harsher penalties. However, there was more to the story than what transpired in court. Kevin Burnett filed a legal lawsuit against Conrad in the months following the accident, requesting financial damages to make up for his suffering. The matter was ultimately resolved out of court in 2004 for a sum that was not disclosed to the public. In well-known cases, where parties frequently agree to preserve one another's financial information and privacy, this is a typical outcome. Although the contents of the settlement were never disclosed to the public, most believe that Conrad gave Burnett a sizable payment to compensate for his suffering and diminished standard of living. Unfortunately, the impact of the collision extended well beyond the immediate injuries. 2 years after the collision, in 2005, Kevin Burnett passed away from an ulcer. He was 28. His family publicly stated that he passed away as a result of consequences from the vehicle accident and the difficult, agonizing recovery he underwent. They claimed that his health and well-being had suffered for a long time due to the psychological and physical shock of what had occurred. Although Robert Conrad was never held legally liable for Burnett's passing, the incident remained with him and caused him to feel sad and guilty. Conrad was severely injured in the accident, and it would be difficult for him to do things for the rest of his life. He severely injured his nerves, primarily on his now partially paralyzed right side. The man, who had previously gained notoriety for his rugged athletics and daring spirit, he performed his own acts and enjoyed playing physical roles, was now confronted with a brutal new reality. He was in excruciating pain, had neurological damage that was irreversible, and could hardly move. The contrast between his strong on-screen character and the real restrictions he suddenly faced was heartbreaking. Robert Conrad spent the majority of his final years in the shadows as his health deteriorated. Despite the fact that he occasionally spoke about his work in interviews and public appearances, but he grew increasingly reclusive. On February 8, 2020, his heart stopped beating in his Malibu, California, residence. He was 84. A complex and occasionally contentious legacy came to an end after his passing. In addition to decades of TV and film glory, it was marred by personal troubles, legal troubles, and the agony of one awful night on a California highway.